In the summer of 2008, Elon Musk was almost broke. He was sleeping on a friend's couch. His rocket company had just failed to reach orbit for the third time in a row. His electric car company was weeks away from running out of money. He was going through a divorce. And on top of all of that, he had just poured the last of his personal fortune, money he'd made from selling PayPal, into these two companies, betting everything he had left. Most people would have called it quits. Instead, Elon Musk did something almost no one expected. He doubled down. This is the story of how a boy who grew up getting bullied in South Africa built two of the most valuable companies in the world and nearly lost everything twice along the way. Elon Musk was born in 1971 in Pretoria, South Africa. From a young age, he was an intensely curious child, often described by those around him as being lost in his own thoughts, constantly reading and absorbing information. By the age of 10, he had taught himself computer programming. By 12, he had built and sold his very first piece of software, a simple video game called Blaster, which he sold to a computer magazine for a small sum of money. It was his first taste of turning an idea into something real. But his childhood was far from easy. Musk has spoken about being bullied severely at school, at one point being hospitalized after a beating from other students. His home life was also difficult, and he has described his relationship with his father as complicated and painful. Despite these challenges, Musk immersed himself in books, not just science fiction, but philosophy, physics, and technology. He has often said that science fiction novels shaped how he thought about the future, giving him a sense that humanity's long-term survival depended on becoming a multi-planetary species, an idea that would define much of his life's work decades later. At 17, Musk left South Africa for Canada, partly to avoid mandatory military service, and partly because he saw far greater opportunity in North America. He worked odd jobs to support himself, including a physically demanding stint at a lumber mill, before eventually transferring to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States, where he studied physics and economics. After finishing his studies, Musk moved to California, right in the middle of the early internet boom of the 1990s. He briefly began a PhD in physics at Stanford University, but dropped out after just 2 days, convinced the internet was about to change the world faster than any research project could. Along with his brother Kimball, Musk founded a company called Zip2, a simple but useful piece of software that helped newspapers put business directories and maps online, essentially an early version of what Google Maps and Yelp would later become. The brothers worked relentlessly, often sleeping in their small office because they couldn't afford separate housing. In 1999, a major computer company acquired ZIP2 for over $300 million. Musk's personal share of that sale was around $22 million, instantly making him a wealthy man in his late 20s. But instead of retiring or slowing down, Musk immediately poured almost all of that money into a new, much riskier venture, an online banking and payments company called X.com. The idea was ambitious, to completely reinvent how people handled money, moving everything to the internet. X.com eventually merged with a competitor, and the combined company was renamed PayPal. Musk became a major shareholder and, for a time, its CEO, though internal disagreements over the company's direction eventually led the board to replace him as chief executive while he was away on his honeymoon. Still, Musk remained the largest individual shareholder, In 2002, PayPal was purchased by a major online marketplace company for $1.5 billion. Musk's share of that sale was around $180 million. At just 31 years old, Elon Musk was now extraordinarily wealthy. Most people in his position would have taken it easy. Musk did the opposite. He decided to bet almost his entire fortune on two of the most difficult and capital-intensive industries in the world: rockets and electric cars. Musk had long been fascinated by the idea of humanity becoming a multiplanetary species, and specifically of sending humans to Mars. In the early 2000s, he approached the idea not as a scientist, but as an outsider. He simply wanted to know why space travel was still so extraordinarily expensive. Decades after the first moon landing, his initial idea was surprisingly modest: buy a used intercontinental ballistic missile from Russia, convert it, and send a small greenhouse to Mars as a publicity stunt to reignite public interest in space exploration. He traveled to Russia multiple times trying to negotiate this deal, but was repeatedly turned away, and at one point was reportedly even spat on by a Russian official who didn't take him seriously. Frustrated but undeterred, Musk came to a radical conclusion on the flight home. Instead of buying a rocket, he would build one himself, from scratch, and do it far more cheaply than anyone had before. In 2002, he founded space exploration technologies, SpaceX, with the audacious long-term goal of making life multiplanetary. Almost everyone in the aerospace industry believed this was impossible. For a private company with no government backing, rockets were considered the domain of nations, not entrepreneurs. Musk hired a small team of talented engineers and set up shop in a warehouse in California, determined to prove the skeptics wrong. The company's first rocket, called Falcon 1, attempted its first launch in 2006. It failed, crashing shortly after liftoff due to a fuel leak. A second attempt in 2007 also failed. A third attempt in 2008 failed as well, this time due to a timing error between the rocket's two stages. 3 consecutive failures. SpaceX was rapidly running out of money, and by this point, so was Musk personally, as he had already invested most of his fortune from PayPal into building the company. Industry insiders widely expected SpaceX to shut down for good. Musk made the decision to attempt a 4th launch, and told his team it would be the company's very last chance, as there simply wasn't enough money left to try again if it failed. In September 2008, Falcon 1's 4th launch attempt successfully reached orbit. It was the first privately funded, liquid-fueled rocket in history to do so. SpaceX had survived by the narrowest possible margin. The years following 2008 marked a dramatic turnaround for both companies. SpaceX began securing contracts with NASA to deliver cargo to the International Space Station, providing crucial, stable revenue. The company continued to innovate rapidly, and in 2015, achieved something no one had done before, successfully landing an orbital rocket booster upright after launch, allowing it to be reused. This single innovation would go on to dramatically reduce the cost of space travel. Tesla, meanwhile, launched the Model S in 2012, a fully electric luxury sedan that received critical acclaim and proved, once and for all, that electric cars could compete directly with the best gasoline-powered vehicles on the market. It was followed by the Model X, and then, most importantly, the Model 3 in 2017, Tesla's first mass-market vehicle, designed to bring electric cars to everyday consumers. The production of the Model 3 nearly broke the company all over again. Tesla struggled enormously to manufacture the car at scale, and Musk has since referred to this period as production hell, at times sleeping on the factory floor to personally oversee manufacturing issues. But the company pushed through, and by the end of the decade, Tesla had become the most valuable car company in the world, despite producing a fraction of the vehicles of its long-established competitors. SpaceX, in parallel, continued its own extraordinary growth. It became the primary launch provider for NASA, private satellite companies, and even began flying astronauts to the International Space Station in 2020, the first time a private company had ever sent humans into orbit. The company's long-term goal remains unchanged from its founding: to make human life on Mars possible. Today, the two companies Elon Musk nearly lost in 2008 are among the most valuable and influential in the world. Tesla has helped accelerate the entire auto industry's shift toward electric vehicles. SpaceX has fundamentally changed the economics of space travel, making it dramatically cheaper to reach orbit than at any point in history. Musk's journey has not been without controversy, and his leadership style, public statements, and business decisions have often sparked intense debate. But few can dispute the sheer scale of risk he was willing to take at the lowest point of his career, when most people in his position would have walked away. The story of Elon Musk is, at its heart, a story about conviction under extreme pressure. In 2008, with two companies on the brink of failure at the exact same time, he chose to risk everything he had rather than give up on either one. That decision, made in the middle of what he has called the worst year of his life, is what ultimately made everything that came afterward possible. From a bullied kid in South Africa to a young multi-millionaire after selling PayPal, to nearly losing everything in a single catastrophic year, Elon Musk's story is a reminder that the lowest point in a journey isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the exact moment that determines everything that follows. If you had to choose between saving one of two companies you'd poured your entire life into, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more journeys through the lives of the world's most fascinating entrepreneurs. In the next video, we'll explore the story of a man who was rejected over 1,000 times before building one of the most recognizable fast food brands on the planet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.